You've canceled plans before, and in that exact moment, before guilt could even load, there was relief. Not a small, quiet relief, a full-body exhale, like something you'd been unconsciously bracing for just dissolved, like your shoulders dropped half an inch without you telling them to. And then, almost immediately, a second feeling arrived. What is wrong with me? Here's the answer. Nothing. But that question, the speed at which it showed up, how automatic it was, that's what's worth examining. Because it didn't come from nowhere. It was installed. Slowly, quietly, over years of being told that needing space from people is something you're supposed to grow out of. We live in a culture that has treated solitude like a symptom for so long that most people don't even notice the assumption anymore. If you prefer your own company, something must have happened to you. Some wound, some pattern, some early experience that drove you inward. The preference itself becomes evidence of damage. And I won't pretend that's never true. Sometimes it is. But here's what that narrative ignores. Some people don't go inward because something broke. They go inward because that's where they function best. They think more clearly there. They feel more like themselves there. They come back to the people they love more present, not less. We've been asking the wrong question entirely. It was never, is solitude healthy or unhealthy? The real question is, why were we told it had to be one or the other in the first place? Let me give you a name for this. Call her Sophia. Late 20s, works in UX design, thoughtful, funny in small groups, genuinely cares about the people in her life. Nobody who meets her would call her shy. Nobody who knows her would call her depressed. But every time a group trip gets planned, the thread blowing up, everyone picking dates, she feels it. About a week out, a low, creeping tightness in her chest she can't explain and has never said out loud. She goes anyway, every time, because not going feels like showing the room something unflattering about herself. She comes back hollowed. Not just tired, hollowed. The kind of drained that sleep doesn't reach. And for years, she told herself the same story. I need to push through this. I'm just not there yet. It never occurred to her that there wasn't a place she needed to get to, that she wasn't running behind some more socially fluent version of herself, that she might just be wired differently. Researchers confirmed that roughly 15 to 20% of people have nervous systems that process incoming information more deeply than average. Not more emotionally, not more dramatically, more deeply. This isn't fragility, it's a neurological difference in processing depth. Their brains are running significantly more operations per social interaction, more cross-referencing, more pattern recognition, more emotional data being tracked and felt, all simultaneously, all without a choice. When your brain is doing that much background work just to exist in a room, you don't need less time with people because you don't like them. You need more recovery time because you gave more than the average person ever had to give. So when Sophia comes home and needs 3 days of silence before she feels like herself, she's not being dramatic. She's recovering from something that genuinely cost her more than the person sitting next to her. Same trip, same conversations, completely different bill. And still, she'll probably apologize for it. There's a myth worth addressing, carefully, because myths don't survive without containing some truth. The myth: humans are inherently social creatures, and any deviation from that is a deviation from health. The first part is true. We are wired for connection. We need people. That's not up for debate. But needing people and needing people constantly are not the same sentence. And somewhere along the way, we stopped making that distinction. Research on chosen solitude shows something more nuanced. People who deliberately chose time alone reported higher levels of meaning and lower emotional fatigue than those who filled every gap with social noise. The critical word is chosen. Forced isolation is corrosive, but chosen solitude, solitude you walked into on your own terms, restores something. What's strange is we've collapsed these two completely different experiences into one category, treating someone who wants to be alone the same way we treat someone who has no choice, with pity, with worry, with the quiet assumption that something must be wrong. We see someone eating lunch alone and feel sad for them. We see someone decline an invitation and immediately wonder if they're okay. We've built a social grammar where presence equals wellness and absence equals something to fix. And the people who naturally prefer solitude, many of them have absorbed that grammar so completely they've spent years performing an extroversion they don't feel, showing up, filling silences, answering calls they don't have the energy for, staying a little longer than they want to just to seem normal enough. Think about what that does to a person compounded over years. It creates a specific kind of exhaustion, low-grade, constant, hard to name, the kind people blame on their job, their schedule, their stress. They try new routines. They never think to ask the actual question, what if I've just been living slightly outside myself for a very long time? That's what solitude gives you that nothing else can. Uninterrupted access to your own inner life. Not productivity, not achievement, access. Your values live in there. Your real opinions formed before the room gets to weigh in. The emotions you were too overscheduled to feel. The intuitions that kept getting drowned out by noise. People who have genuinely made peace with being alone, not the avoidant kind, not the shut-down kind, but the grounded kind, tend to know what they think before consensus forms around them. They've already had the argument with themselves in the quiet. That's not isolation producing that, that's clarity producing it. But this is where it's easy to romanticize, and I'd rather not do that. Because solitude can become a hiding place. There's a version of preferring your own company that isn't restoration, it's retreat. And from the outside, they look identical. Same canceled plans, same quiet apartment, but from the inside, they feel completely different. Recharging feels like coming back to yourself. Retreating feels like relief at first, and then that relief slowly flattens into something emptier. If you've ever spent a weekend alone and emerged feeling worse, not tired but hollowed, that's worth paying attention to, not as judgment, as information. The people who have figured this out don't treat solitude like an identity. They're not performing introversion, they're just tending to something, the way you'd water a plant without making it a whole philosophy. They go inward, they come back, more regulated, more present, more capable of real intimacy. Because real closeness costs something, and you can't spend what you don't have. Here's something worth saying out loud. Choosing to sit with your own thoughts, undistracted, unperformed, is one of the quietest acts of resistance available to you right now. Every platform you use was engineered to make stillness feel unbearable. That discomfort you feel when you put the phone down in their silence, it was built by people who profit from your inability to be bored. Choosing real solitude means your attention belongs to you, even briefly. That's not a small thing. So if you felt that relief when the plans fell through, if you've always felt slightly more yourself in the quiet than in the crowd, I'm not going to tell you that's a superpower. That framing is just as reductive as the one that called it a flaw. What I'll say is simpler. It's information. Your psychology, your wiring, your particular way of moving through the world telling you something true about what you need. The only mistake, the one that actually costs you, isn't needing solitude. It's spending so long defending it, hiding it, or apologizing for it that you never actually use it. You don't have to justify how you're built. You just have to stop arguing with it long enough to let it do what it's designed to do. If this resonated, not just intellectually, but in that quieter place where you actually recognized yourself, there's more waiting on this channel. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.